knowing that I was different and
Yeah.
just being surrounded by so many people that reminded me that I was different, that's when I started to cover up. Not being vocal, like I was very shy, did not want to talk to anyone.
Hi, my name is Celina Leroy, and I'm here with
Aaliyah Booker.
and I'm doing interviews of people with facial differences to raise awareness and reduce stigma. How old are you and where are you from?
I'm 22 years old and I'm from New Jersey.
Are you in school or do you have a job?
So I recently just graduated
Okay.
with a bachelor's in biology. As of right now, I work with my parents. Both of them are both funeral directors. I also am a facial difference advocate. I public speak, modeling. I really want to be a light and I just want to share my story to inspire and help other people. So I was born with a facial difference called golden heart syndrome. I was born with no left ear, no left side of my jawbone, a scar tissue on the left side of my eye. I had trouble eating, breathing, sleeping. I have undergone 26 surgeries. I think mentally, it really affected me growing up, knowing that I was different, just being surrounded by so many people that reminded me that I was different. That's when I started to cover up. Not being vocal, like I was very shy, did not want to talk to anyone. In junior year of college, that's when I found my light. That's when I found my voice, and that was due to representation. Praise her name, Emily Merrill. I was on Instagram and I saw her. She has the same syndrome as me.
Yeah.
And it was so cool to feel seen, feel heard and loved.
Yeah.
And ever since that, pushed my fears aside and just followed it and
Yeah.
chased it. And it led me here today, finding my confidence, my beauty, and sharing that with the world.
What would you tell a adult now who has a kid with a facial difference? Like,
My parents did the right thing, and that was them pushing me out into the wolves, into the world, and not sheltering me. They pushed me into sports, they pushed me into public speaking. I was irritated by my family because they know I have a facial difference, they know I look different, and they kept saying oh no, you look good, and I'm like, no, I get stared at all the time. Who wants to be stared down? And people moving away and doing weird comments and everything. Like I mentioned, I was in gymnastics, and that reason was wanting me to be judged based on my abilities instead of my physical appearances. And once they told me that, I was like, wow, you really knew my potential.
any last words you want to say to the world?
You are unique. You are beautiful in your own way. Just keep embracing your authenticity, especially, kids, if you feel different inside, you are seen. I'm with you right here, even though I'm not with you, but I feel you through the camera. Stay tuned to my girl Celina series. She got more people coming on, so watch.
I had my whole leg covered with a birthmark. They wanted to amputate my leg. My mother had to fight with them to not let them do that because she wanted to research and find out more about poor Weinstein, which no one had even heard about. It can be very isolating feeling like you're the only one dealing with something like this. And it can be scary to be dealing with medical issues growing up. But if you have other people to talk to and other people's journeys to watch and relate to, it makes you feel less alone and less scared and less just stigmatized in general. My name is Sarah. I'm 36 and I live in New York. I'm a writer, a poet. I'm a creative soul. I have a port wine stain covering over 50% of my body. It's on my face, my torso. One whole leg is covered. I have some on my other leg as well. I have definitely one of the more extensive port wine stains. I also have KTS in my left leg. I was bullied and I was ridiculed and I was made fun of. I was called two-faced. People said I would never get married. People say no one would ever love me. People would say no one would ever date me. All kinds of things throughout the years. Even though it did hurt me and it definitely affected my self-confidence, I always tried to stand up for myself in those moments. I'm married. I have 4 kids. Doing a lot of stuff that I thought I would probably never do. I did have 14 laser surgeries. I just remember, feeling like burnt toast. I felt like a science project sometimes, especially because mine was so big. So if I go into the doctor's office, hey, everybody, come see. We only read about this in the textbook. And they would call every single doctor in the office in, all staring at me with their flashlights. I felt very very alone, I started doing theater, I started doing cheerleading, I started doing things that pushed me outside of my comfort zone, finding my talents and my unique qualities. And that's when I really started to embrace my birthmark. I found that adults are often a lot more rude than children are with things that they say. I did my poetry book so that kids could have a way to talk about it, bring it into class, have something to share, and see it as an asset instead of a flaw, see it as something that makes me different. It's good to stand out, it's good to be different, it's good to not be like everybody else.
But the most common is the way people react to me when I walk back and forth. Normally and have a conversation with my mom and won't even acknowledge my presence, thinking I don't understand.
What is your name and where are you from?
My name is Celina. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm 19 years old.
What are your interests, passions, and hobbies?
My greatest love and passion is music, specifically playing the piano. It brings me the greatest joy to be able to play both for myself and for others.
When did you start playing piano?
I started playing the piano at the age of 2, so I guess it was something I was born with and have loved since I was a baby.
Can you tell me any accomplishments that you're proud of?
When I was born, my mom was told that I may not walk or talk and would have all sorts of joy, so we didn't know what I would and wouldn't be able to do to get to play on some of the greatest stages in the world, such as Radio City Music Hall, Carnegie Hall, and Madison Square Garden are some of my greatest and proudest accomplishments. That's not even including some of the icons I've had the chance to actually perform with.
What kind of craniofacial difference or disability do you have?
I was born with a bilateral cleft lip and palate, which was repaired when I was 7 months old. I was also born with bilateral myophthalmia, which means no eyes since I was therefore born blind and wear prosthetics.
Do you think that there are any misconceptions that people have about your disability?
The way people react to me when I rock back and forth. Rocking for a blind person is associated with the lack of environmental stimulation. However, rocking is also seen as inappropriate and often prevents blind people from fitting in and making friends. People automatically assume that I rock because something is wrong with me and view me negatively before I even get to say hello. They will often ignore me and have a conversation with my mom and won't even acknowledge my presence, thinking I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you go through that. What would you like to tell those people if you had the chance?
Talk to me, get to know me. We may do things differently, but underneath it all, we are all the same.
What are your goals for the future?
I will get to do what I love most, and that is to make music and to play the piano. I hope to play on amazing stages all over the world. I hope I will just prove to everyone that dreams can come true.
What advice do you have for a young person with a facial difference or disability?
I think Dr. Seuss said it best be who you are and say what you feel because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind.
I love that. Thank you, Logan. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Celina.
Bye.
Like I had like a couple weeks ago, I had a nurse like ask me in front of the patient, "What'd you do to your face?" My name is Ava Piles, and I live in Hershey, Pennsylvania. I love to run. I'm currently training for a half marathon right now. I work in a hospital as a full-time patient transporter. I have an infantile hemangioma, and I also have face syndrome. I've had like 32 surgeries and 44 laser treatments, and it's internal too, so it affects my eyesight, hearing, and vision. And there's some other medical stuff along with it, but I thrive. I go to work, I run very fast. When I ran 6 minutes and 55 seconds. I had a learning disability in high school, so never doubt anyone who has a disability. We can do anything we put our mind to, and we're going for it. Got bullied a lot. I People ask me what's wrong with my face and stuff. I work in a hospital and I have staff members ask me who are nurses or doctors. Like, a couple weeks ago, I had a nurse like ask me in front of the patient, "What'd you do to your face?" And I'm like, I say what it is. You can ask me kindly. Just think about how you ask it. I've made amazing friendships that I call these people like my second family. It's people I talk to like every day. You can achieve anything, even if you have a facial difference or a vascular birthmark, because you're amazing. My goals for the future are continue working in the medical field and continuing to educate and spread awareness about vascular birthmarks. My goal is to run very, very, very fast. I want to do a marathon.
A lot of kids will look at it and go, "Mommy, mommy, look at his face. What's that?" It's a birthmark. That's all it is. My name is Adrian. I'm 39 and I live in Orange County, Southern California. Having it on my face, it's always visible. I was actually really nervous about, uh, I guess, exposing myself and meeting others of fear of judgment. What happened to your face? Did you get burned? Did you go to war? I did have bullying and experienced things like trying to hang out with people and then they just kind of turning their back and say, no, we don't want to hang out with you. I don't know if it's because I'm Asian or if it's my birthmark, but I always thought it was my birthmark. There's still this horrible stigma that it's this excuse my French, fucked up thing. It's just a birthmark. I was at a bar and walked up to a girl, tried to say hi. She literally turned around, looked at me, pointed at my birthmark and said, "Ew, no," and then turned around and walked away. And like that shook me for the longest time. You question sometimes, is she not the only person that feels that way? Afterwards, it kind of hurt for a while, but then things fade, you forget sometimes, and then life moves on, to be honest with you. I was afraid for a while. I know there's millions of others out there that don't want to expose themselves. I'm sure there's millions of others that are afraid to and don't know how to, because it took me, I think, over a year before I really started to open up. Growing up, my whole family, including aunts, uncles, just everybody, has said that my birthmark is actually a sign of good luck. That helps psychologically with being with myself, being comfortable with it as well out in public. Knowing that we are all bonded by the same thing, it's very powerful. You're already building your confidence. You just don't realize it yet. You fear the worst, and sometimes that fear holds you back. Together Stronger is literally how I feel with the community. I am stronger because of everybody else.
Always knew that, or can we talk to this daughter? And the narrative was, we needed to fix you, we need to get you looking like everybody else, and that was just never going to happen. And for so long I went through life not even knowing who I was or what I valued. You ask me, what do I like to do, and it's like, oh, I don't know, overthink everything and think about what people care about me. Like, that's not a hobby.
Hi, my name is Celina, and I'm here with.
Lorena Bryant.
Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of facial difference you have?
When I was born, I actually didn't have like any birthmark at all. At 2 weeks old, like a little dot started popping. Turns out though, I had what they call at the time a cavernous hemangioma, a bursting of blood vessels. It was a tumor and it started affecting my vision, my breathing, my ability to eat. I had to remove the whole growth, cover the entire side of my right side of my face. Because they had to do such a drastic removal, I then had to do reconstructive surgery twice a year from 3 months old to when I was 20.
What has your journey been with having surgeries and like how you've dealt with it?
I gotta be honest, not very good. It was really, really, really hard for me. I grew up always just feeling very different. No one else like had anything I was going through. It was pretty bad. In my environment, I'm trying to say this delicately, but I didn't exactly have the best support from my parents either. There was a lot of concern about me just looking normal. That was the goal. There was always a new cream that was being presented to me. Can we talk to this daughter? And the narrative was, we needed to fix you. We need to get you looking like everybody else. Like, your skin needs to be perfect. And that was just never going to happen. And I grew up feeling like I was broken. I was already full of so much shame because I had this. And I wish I could go back now and tell that younger girl, it's okay. This isn't going to define you. Like, this is just part of you and your journey. But it took me until probably my mid to late 20s before I started really realizing I cannot let this hold me back anymore. And I cannot continue like hating myself or hating how I look or believing that I need to look a certain way to be beautiful. And so over the last probably 8 years, I've really been on a journey of just learning to love myself and learning about me and what I like to do, and to stop focusing so much on what society says and just forge my own path. And like, everyone is different. It is okay. You're beautiful. It doesn't matter what you look like. This is your story. And the sooner you can embrace your authenticity and the things that make you you, the more fulfilled you're going to be in life. Life can be hard, but it gets better.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I can't wait to do your painting.
I cannot wait. Thank you so much.
And that's not fair. So I am also a victim of that. It's like, hey, why do you look like that? And then they just know me and it's like, oh, she's really cool. I'm tired of doing that.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Annabelle, and I'm 19 years old, and I'm from upstate New York.
Are you in school?
And I study interior design.
Your face was like on billboards.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us a little about that?
That was for a lip balm company. My face, and me and a few other people got an opportunity to be on billboards in all the sides of
Now going into like your facial difference, would you just share for like someone who doesn't know anything?
I was born with a rare facial difference called Vagal syndrome. Basically, it affects the jaw, the arms, the hands, and the feet. I do have the 4 fingers on each hand, no extension of the elbow.
And have you ever had like surgery for it?
I had 41 surgeries.
But you said 41.
It was throughout my life when I was a kid.
How was that experience for you?
It was okay because I grew up in a small town. It was mostly when the new kids came around. With the bullying, because of how old I was, I took it very personal. I just thought it was unnecessary, the comment that was made. With the love of my family and my friends, I was able to kind of like reverse it. I use it as adrenaline in my everyday life.
Were you part of MySpace when you were younger?
I've been at MySpace since I was 3. When I was younger, I started out my symptoms very negatively. So I would go to the support groups and be like, why are we here? But now I go to every single one and I'm like, why didn't we come sooner?
What would you tell your younger self?
Girl, please. Because why are you so angry? That little girl is so angry. And she doesn't realize that she can make a positive life out of it. And she's just negative. She's a negative Nancy, that little one. She doesn't know any better.
What are your goals for the future?
Just live life. I didn't have a childhood to live life.
Do you feel like your parents supported you?
My parents support you in everything that I do. When it comes to parents in this generation, especially with mental health, talk to your children, please. Lost one of my friends very young. They said they're okay before something goes wrong.
What are ways that you feel like the world can be more accepting?
A lot of people judge a book before they read it, and that's not fair. I am also a victim of that. It's like, hey, why do you look like that? And then they get to know me, and it's like, oh, she's really cool. I'm tired of doing that.
Any last words you want to say?
Know that you're not by yourself. Your family has you, your friends have you, advocates have you. People have you.
Everyone go to a therapist.
Yeah.
I was harassed until high school. Started to develop a complex. My name is Nourulaine. Everyone call me Nanao. I'm living in France. I had a birthmark that covered half of my face. When I was in junior high school, I got angry and I took eraser and I was desperately trying to erase my birthmark. My friend saw me do this and she scolded me by telling me that I'm beautiful as I am and that those who harass me are simply jealous. We can change behavior, but we cannot change the innate physical characteristics. So we must accept others regardless of their physical appearance. I like spend time to putting makeup to take some pictures of myself. I like to show it. Everyone born different. In high school, people say that I was weird because of my birthmark, but in my head, I replaced the word weird by the word unique. Important to represent and raise awareness, especially via social networks, because unfortunately, people have easy criticism. You don't like how I am, it's okay, but I don't care. I like myself, and it's the most important. Be proud. Yes, be proud. It's something unique and beautiful. It's a present of God, and it's a part of me.
And this girl said to me, "Oh, Faith, you don't need a Halloween costume. You have one already on your face." My name is Faith. I'm from New York City, 33 years old. I'm a nurse practitioner at a hospital in Manhattan. My hobbies are running, swimming, traveling, and trying out new bakeries. My biggest accomplishment was becoming a nurse practitioner. It was a lot of schoolwork and a lot of time and dedication, but I'm so proud of myself. I have a port wine stain birthmark on the left side of my face. Blood vessels under the skin are just more closer to the skin, more inflamed, and so you could see it when looking at someone. I do have glaucoma in my left eye. I've had over probably about 60 laser treatments, I think, throughout my lifetime. A couple of different surgeries for like sinus issues and stuff. And I've had surgery 3 times on my left eye for the glaucoma. I definitely feel that having a birthmark made me go into healthcare. I always had such, admiration for all the doctors and nurses that took care of me. So when I was younger, my mom would tend to like coddle me a lot and like hold me a lot. I had like a little bald spot on the back of my head. She would ask the pediatrician, how should I, how is Faith gonna grow up like this? How should we react when people like look at her, or I'm just gonna feel bad when someone bullies Faith. So the pediatrician told my mom, you carry her too much, you coddle her too much. The world isn't a nice place, but you have to allow her to fend for herself, be independent, and let her be her. That advice definitely was helpful. My mom let me be me and do what I wanted to do, and grow up into the person I am. So I think that was all good advice, and I have like a good head on my shoulders, I think. I remember one experience that was really quite hurtful when I was in 6th grade. A girl was asking like a group of us what we were going to be for Halloween, and this girl said to me, "Oh, Faith, you don't need a Halloween costume. You have one already on your face." So that was horrible and hurtful. And I think, I still remember it today, but I have not let it affect me. If I were to look back on that time and be able to talk to that younger self, I would just say, don't listen to all those people who are saying mean things or looking at you weird and feeling bad about yourself. Just know that you're perfect the way you are, and you're, a gift to the world.
There's a lot of people who are just very, very ableist, very homophobic, and they have never seen a disabled person, especially a disabled person who is loving themselves. My name is Austin Hawes, and I'm from Montclair, New Jersey. I work like 50,000 jobs being a content creator. I'm a model, motivational speaker, pop star. You name it, I probably claim it. So the syndrome that I was born with was called Mobius syndrome, and it is where the 6th and 7th cranial nerves are underdeveloped, making me born with facial paralysis and eye paralysis. I was born without any expression. My face was basically like a mask. I can't look left or right, so my eyes are kind of very paralyzed. I think navigating life with a facial difference has gained me so much wisdom. Because of my facial paralysis, I lost a lot of how I connect and communicate. Non-verbal expression is about 50 to 60% of how I communicate. I was always drawn to music. I was singing at like 3 years old. I have a film of me singing karaoke. Music is so undeniable. That's why I got into songwriting. That's why I became a creator. How I express myself is definitely through fashion and music. And that definitely was because of my facial paralysis. A lot of having facial paralysis is like very interesting, like subconscious microaggressions, people just undermining me in a subconscious way. I get stared at like every single day. I feel like I get stared at in public. Having facial paralysis, people automatically assume that I'm a child, I'm a baby, and people think that my intelligence is low, even though I have my degree in psychology. There's a lot of people who are just very, very ableist, very homophobic, and they have never seen a disabled person, especially a disabled person who is loving themselves. All of the history of disabilities has been making sure that able-bodied people feel inspired by disabled people. I'm inspirational not by doing normal things, but for being vulnerable on the internet. That's what I think about. We need to have disabled people at all tables. We need to celebrate not only disability history, disability culture, but also just disability joy. If you're being ADA accessible, that is one thing, and showcasing disability joy and representation is such a different thing.
You know, a lot of people think of us as monsters. I've gotten that. And somehow she was able to convince more than half the school grade to try to jump me after school.
Hi, my name is Celina Leroy, and I'm here with
Jacqueline Luceta.
Where are you from?
I'm Dominican, but I live in the Bronx.
What is your favorite color?
My favorite color is purple.
I met your daughter.
Her name is Gabriela. She's 8 years old. She's been the absolute light of my life. Yet another birthmark supporter.
So what kind of birthmark do you have?
So it's called the port wine stain. Sturge-Weber syndrome is part of it.
Can you share any stories where you felt like you were bullied?
Back when I was in middle school, there was this girl that I was never even her friend, and somehow she was able to convince more than half the school grade to try to jump me after school. And if I wouldn't have had 3 or 4 friends that had my back and walked me home, I wouldn't have made it home safe that night. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of awareness out there because a lot of kids my age didn't even know what it was. Honestly, I didn't know what I had. Lack of awareness, that's all. If she would have known, maybe she would have been a little kinder. You know, a lot of people think of us as monsters. I've gotten that. Had a cousin when she was getting married. She hired a makeup artist and they did her makeup. By the time I looked at myself in the mirror, I couldn't recognize myself. I can say I was a little upset about it, but I didn't feel comfortable speaking up for myself. Something I feel completely comfortable doing now.
So she didn't even ask you like, oh, do you want?
No, she didn't ask, but I think a lot of makeup artists don't know how to work with birthmarks, or they assume that we want them covered. And with me, it's the opposite. I don't want it covered.
So I think any makeup artist out there, you should definitely ask the person with the birthmark if
Please.
they want it to be covered before doing it. What would you tell your younger self now if you had a chance?
Don't be afraid to love. Don't be afraid to be loved. Don't be afraid to put your face out there, which is something that's taken me a lot to learn.
What are your goals for the future?
So I would love to be a social worker within the birthmark community.
Can we get your daughter in for a second?
Ella.
What do you think about your mom's birthmark?
It changes colors, and that's the cool part.
She was telling me how you were giving her like a prep talk.
But I told you I'm so nervous about the interview.
Yeah, but you shouldn't, only because all you have to do is do it for once. And what if there's more people who will think that just from one little sentence they'll learn so much? Just like I've learned more about your birthmark.
Aww.
Thank you. You're so perfect.
Thank you, my baby. I'm surprised she spoke.
Final last message.
One of the best things I can say is not to be scared of us. Be our friend. Come talk to us. Come say hi. We actually love it. And yeah, I this has been a beautiful experience.
Yeah, of course. You're amazing. Bye.
I can't sing anymore. I used to love to sing, and I was a soprano. I could hit Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, but not anymore. Most of my seizures were like drop seizures, so they would come out of nowhere and I would literally just fall to the ground. My name is Megan Curley. I'm a native New Yorker. My parents raised me as normal as I could, being that I have bilateral port wine stain and Sturge-Weber syndrome. They weren't even aware of what it was when I was first born. The doctors thought it was just an afterbirth mark. But then over time, she was told that it was a port wine stain, and she was not sure. Nobody was really sure how it was going to go. I was teased a lot. I was called Meg Ham. I had 3 major friends growing up. Kenny and Charlie would beat up a lot of friends for making fun of me. My mother, I can tell you, became very religious. The first year of my life, she gave up pasta thinking that it would make my birthmark go away. She wanted to hide it, I'll be honest. I mean, I wore makeup until I finally said stop. And back in 1975, makeup was horrendous. It was so thick and so cakey. You look like a white ghost. I've had treatments for my port wine stain 33 years ago when technology became available. My whole side of the left side of my body would go numb. Do a MRI on the brain and see that there is basically, if you want to call it a cloud, or the birthmark on the brain showing the port wine stain. The older you get, the thicker this gets. I can get blebs, and those blebs can bleed out. So it's important for people as they get older to get treated. Parents really take into consideration that kids just want to be treated as equal. Take one day at a time. Let them live their lives that's the way they want to be. And don't always think that surgery or hemispherectomies are the way to go.
Hi, my name is Celina Leroy, and I'm here with
Dina. I am the Director of Family Programs at My Face, which is a nonprofit organization that helps children and adults with facial differences. So I was born with a cleft lip, which was a gap in my lip that went up into my nose. I was also born with hearing loss in both ears, a small left eye. I wear prosthetic eye to look like my right eye, and I actually can't see anything out of my left eye. So I had 6 surgeries growing up.
What was the experience for you having a facial difference?
It was challenging. I was not a good patient when I had to have surgery, but I think for me it was teasing and the bullying and the exclusion in general. It was probably in some ways harder than the surgeries.
Can you share any experiences where you felt like you were being bullied?
In dodgeball, I feel like the kids sometimes would throw the ball harder just to hit me, that sort of thing, but most of the time it was just sort of the exclusion and just feeling a little left out. So I would sit alone on the school bus or in the lunchroom. Also even staring, kids staring, not understanding.
I feel like dodgeball is like a crazy sport.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, but I'm sorry that you
I wonder if they even still play that now. People make assumptions when you look different, that you're not smart, you're not capable. Even simple things like going out to dinner and ordering off a menu and there's another adult in the room, or they would talk to the other adult and not directly to me. And I think it's the assumptions people make.
What would you tell your younger self?
Go out of your comfort zone. I was very inside myself, that I kind of lost my voice. So one of the things that was really important to me when I joined My Face is that I didn't want any child to go through what I did growing up. Doing the support groups was really important. Meeting others who had facial differences like I did, it just makes all the difference.
Do you have any accomplishments that you're proud of?
Going to schools, speaking to kids about differences, and I've spoken to over 100,000 students.
Do you feel like your parents were successful in helping you?
My parents did the best they could with the resources they had. Always been my biggest advocates. They were really supportive.
What are your goals for the future?
Expand and grow the work that I'm doing at My Face. Been thinking more about relationships and dating and something that I have not done barely anything. So that is something for myself that I've been thinking about.
Is there any last words that you'd want to say to the world?
We are individuals with facial differences, but that's just a piece of us. It's not all of us. We all have differences in whatever form that is.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
This was so fun.
Yeah, loved it. Thank you.
My name is Craig Anthony Taylor, and my location is Oak Park, Illinois. What I do as a hobby is basically run. We started a group called 7 on Sundays. I'm an artist, so I also draw in my free time, whenever that is. My birthmark is located on my chin. It goes up the right side of my face. It also comes down to my chest. There's a girl that you painted that has, she has almost my same identical birthmark. I call her my birthmark twin. It just made me realize, if people would just kind of talk about it a little bit more and not make it so different. Something my dad told me was that, God, I had to be 6 or 7 years old. He said, it's not going anywhere. It's who you are. And you're going to have to learn to live with it. You could put makeup on it. You could try to cover it. We could work with you different ways, to try to mask it, but it's not going anywhere. And I don't know, for some reason that resonated with me. What I found out later in life, that people might not ask me about my birthmark, but they'll ask people that know me. They'll ask my parents. They'll ask my brother and sister. My mom was probably a little bit more protective than my dad. You get used to people staring, because I don't see people staring at me, more my kids or my significant other. they might see people staring at me and have a problem with it. There are names that people would call me, more like obnoxious questions for me. Were you eating a popsicle? Is that popsicle on your face? Well, no, I don't stick popsicles in my ears. I just kind of consider that ignorance. Referred to me as Peach Face Boy. I just had such a close group of people that watched out for me. Figure out who your true friends are, figure out who your confidants are, and rely on those people to share with, watch over you, lift you up. I'm a normal person. I'm just like anyone else. I just happen to have a port wine stained birthmark. The bigger questions now come about the size of my lip. It has gotten larger as I've gotten older, more pronounced. You got to kind of rise above it. The birthmark helped mold me and shape me, gave me the personality, or helped to form the personality that I am now. Birthmark is just a secondary, almost a plus, because at least it makes you stand up. It makes you different. I love, love, love the connection that social media has given to people with birthmarks. Play the hand you were dealt. You know, mine is on my face. This is what I got. Let's do this.
I always hid my birthmark with makeup. Like throughout my life, like I would never leave the house without wearing makeup. My friends never really saw my birthmark. Like,
hi everyone, it's Laser, and today I'm here with
Celina.
And I wanted to ask her a couple questions. What do you do?
So I am an artist and I create paintings of people with craniofacial differences. I'm also an art teacher at a high school in Brooklyn.
What is your mission?
I want to spread awareness and reduce the stigma surrounding difference through the arts.
Why is inclusion so important to you?
I think a lot of people face bullying if you have any kind of difference, and inclusion means that you won't be bullied for those differences.
What is your journey like with coming to embracing your own story?
So I was born with a port wine stained birthmark on my chin and lip and cheek, and I've had a lot of like laser treatments. I've had like 2 surgeries on it to like reduce the size of my lip. I always hid my birthmark with makeup. Like throughout my life, like I would never leave the house without wearing makeup. My friends never really saw my birthmark. Like it's just like, oh, I was always hiding this part of myself. And these is kind of like always told that it's something that I should hide. And I don't want to hide myself anymore. I want to be like honest with the world about who I am.
Yeah.
Even if it's something small like wearing makeup. Yeah.
I also relate to hiding my facial difference. I had a shaved head for a little bit on one side, and then had hair on the other. And then I would always use this hair to cover the whole left side of my face and try to disguise it and blend in.
Yeah, I would do that. I would like put braids in my hair like this, and like, or I would like chew my sweater.
Yeah, or like have my hair literally in my eyes so no one can see it.
Like you wouldn't notice.
Yeah, right.
I was looking through pictures of myself as a kid, and there was like, when I was little, I was like smiling really big. And then there was like a certain point when I was like 6 or 7 years old where I was like going like this in photos. Like it's not so obvious. I was like, I'm just casually putting my hand here. Like,
totally not hiding it.
This is just a pose.
Yeah. And where can they find you at?
At Port Wine Stain Paintings on Instagram and TikTok.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank
It was
you.
wonderful to have you on.
Yeah.
And thank you for watching.